ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदा सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। So
Yeah,
we will begin the.
I'll just make this announcement. Hare Krishna. So it is announcement from BBRB team, BBRB side, that Vansivadan Prabhu is going to come and make announcement regarding the policies of BBRBs. So at 12:15 p.m. So please do not leave for any other engagements. So please be in the class at 12:15 here p.m. Prabhuji will come and announce. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So we will begin the 6th chapter, the downfall of Shaubari Muni. Shri Shuka Uvacha Virupaketuman Shambur Ambarisha Sutastrayah Virupat Prushadashvobhut Tatputrastu Ratitaraha.
Shukdev Goswami said, O Maharaj Parishit, Amrish had 3 sons named Virupa, Ketuman, and Shambhu. From Virupa came a son named Prashdavas, and from
Shadashva.
Prashadasva came a son named Rathitara.
So the Ambarish Maharaj dynasty is being described by Shukdev Goswami. The Rathitara had no sons, therefore he requested the sage Angira to beget sons for him. And Angira begot sons with his Brahminical prowess in the womb of Rathitara's wife. So there is a particular system, it may appear quite strange, that how can actually Angira Rishi beget child in the womb of Rathitara's wife. So this system is called as Niyoga system. There is reference for this in the Manu Samhita and also in the Mahabharata. So on the failure of issue by her husband, a woman who has been authorized may obtain in the proper manner described the desired offspring by cohabitation with a brother-in-law or with some other person in the same dynasty. Devarad was Sapindad was Striya Samyuk Uniktasyasha. This is the verse which comes in the Manu Samhita. And some people well versed in the law, considering the purpose of the appointment not to have been attained by those two, think that a second son may be lawfully procreated on such a woman. So, like for example, this is basically in the Vedic culture, one of the important responsibility is to beget a son who can actually continue the Shraddha to the forefathers. And especially those who are in the kings, one of the important responsibilities that they have to leave behind a proper legacy. Therefore, begetting a son becomes quite a crucial responsibility, as you might have seen in the various sections in the Bhagavatam. And sometimes if the king is unable to actually beget a child in the womb of his wife, then in such a scenario, the scriptures, scriptures are so flexible, like, they give the concept of apat dharma. The Shastras take into account the emergency situations. And then in the emergency situation, certain ways are given as to how to perform dharma. So, but those emergency rules should be restricted only to the emergency. They should not be extended to the normal circumstances. Then it becomes adharma. So here in this case, in the absence of a king or a person, in the absence of a man not being able to beget a child, then these apat dharma rules are given as to how he can actually still beget a child by authorizing his wife to unite with his brother or somebody from the same gotra. So this is called as apat dharma. So even in the Bhagavatam, there are descriptions of the apat dharma. And so reference for Manu Samhita for procreation through the widow by a Brahmana. That's the verse which I just read. Some it is mentioned that when the purpose of the appointment to cohabit with the widow has been attained in accordance with the law, those two shall behave towards each other like a father and daughter-in-law. So I think there are different rules. Suppose the husband has died and the wife does not have children. So at that time, in order to continue the dynasty, the widow is allowed to actually unite with the brother of the husband or with some other person the same dynasty. And then after that union, those two shall behave towards each other like a father and a daughter-in-law. That means it is only for the purpose of actually begetting a child. And if those two, being thus appointed, deviate from the rule and act from the carnal desire, then they will become outcasts who defile the bed of a daughter-in-law or of a guru. So that means apat dharma for begetting a child, because these things, why I'm mentioning is that sometimes the people actually consider the Shastras to be very whimsical. They say that the Shastras talk about the principle of chastity of a woman. At the same time, the Shastras actually give references, as I mentioned. Like, for example, Yajnavalkya mentions the younger brother of a husband, a Sapinda or a Sagotra, being anointed with a clarified butter and with the permission of the Guru, may go to a sonless widow when in season with the desire of raising a son. Gautama Dharma Sutra also gives reference. A woman whose husband is dead and who desires offspring to her brother-in-law, and who desires offspring may bear a son through her brother-in-law. There is also reference to Manusmriti. Garuda Puran mentions that for producing a son and heir in the family, the brother-in-law or a cousin or a person of the same clan can have intercourse with an issueless widow until she conceives. So one may wonder that the scriptures talk about the importance of chastity of a woman. How can the scriptures give this kind of rules? So therefore, that is why the principles of dharma are so subtle. They are so sukshma actually. Even in this world, when somebody commits a murder, to give punishment to the murderer is not a simple thing to decide. The law goes into minute details. It studies the intention of the person. Did he plan it or did it happen the spur of a moment? Was it done with a motive or just to protect oneself or somebody else? So all these considerations make the judgment a very complex affair. It's not a very black and white thing. And the same thing goes for dharma. So one has to understand the Smriti and its underlying principles very minutely. So it is not the job of a common person. You need experts for this, just like you need lawyers in the courtroom. That is why Krishna says that Gahana Karmano Gutihi. Karmano Gatihi. So we have references how when Shantanu Maharaj died, Yasadeva was brought to beget in the womb of the Ambika and Ambalika. Dhritarashtra, Pandu were born. So because so these are some instances. Here the husband is alive. I'm sure there will be some references for even for this. Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. The husband is alive, but he didn't have a son. So therefore, he caused Angira Rishi to beget child in the womb of his wife. And there are references for this also in the Shastra. But the child who is born through the semen of Angira Rishi, that child belongs to the Ratitara, because the women's womb is like a agricultural field. Sometimes a farmer himself, the owner of the field, he himself actually does agriculture and he grows grains and then he sells those grains and uses those grains. And sometimes he himself does not grow, but he gives the land to a particular person and he says that you grow the grains and you give me the grains to me, and you can, as a for growing the grains, I will give some money, or you can keep a part of that. This actually system is there. The same system, same principle over here, that Ratitara told Angira Rishi that you actually procreate through my wife, and then but the child will belong to me. That's the system over here. A woman sometimes allowed to be impregnated by someone other than her husband. The sons born of her husband would then become her husband's son. Such sons were called Kshetra Jata. But of course, in the current age, this Niyoga system is not allowed. Ashwamedam, Gavalambam, Sanyasam, Palapaitrikam, Devarena Sutotpattim, Kalau Pancha Vivarjayet. Devarena Sutotpattim, that refers to this particular Niyoga system. It's not allowed in the current times. But at least we can explain to the people that how there's a system of Apasa Dharma, and we can explain that in what conditions they can be performed. Like in the Apat Dharma also, there is no question of some enjoyment over here. When the brother-in-law or the authorized person is supposed to actually procreate through that particular lady, it is described that they are supposed to smear their body with the oil, and then that without even seeing each other, they have to smear their body with the ghee, and then they have to control. They should have control over their words, and then in the night they should just unite, and then in this way they have to actually beget the children. So in that sense, that the whole thing is completely is simply for the purpose of actually procreating child who can actually continue the dynasty. And suppose if they actually deviate from some of the principles of sense control and control of the speech, and if they actually deviate from that, then they get reactions for that. Somebody was trying to ask something.
Prabhuji, I had a question. Can I ask?
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
Prabhuji, you mentioned that if a widowed woman actually is allowed to actually give birth to the child of her brother-in-law, can you please throw light on this, that nowadays there is a lot of surrogacy births going on, and how far are they valid? Surrogacy means if the male and if the female has some problem, but the male does not have any problem, and then another lady who they don't even know actually through an institute or a clinic or hospital, then that lady, she gives birth actually through surrogacy. So how far is this actually valid in the Shastras, Prabhuji?
That is why we said that verse actually. This particular system is actually not allowed in Kali Yuga. Devarena Sutotpattim. Kalau Pancha Vivarjayet. It's not allowed in Kali Yuga. And recently, few months back, the Bhaktivedanta Hospital, they were having a meeting on this same topic, IVF, surrogacy, and some 2-3 more terms were there, which I'm not familiar currently. Currently, many people, one of the big, there's a lot of money involved in this kind of IVF, surrogacy, etc. Many people, they are not able to get children, and then this medical field has actually come up with these kind of options. And so the hospital, they had and there is so much of money involved. Many hospitals, they earn a lot of money. And Bhaktivedanta hospital, they called for a meeting and they wanted to have the Shastric perspective to it. Well, I couldn't, the particular Shastric perspective we have, this Devarene Sudotpattim, it's not allowed in Kali Yuga, but Manu Samhita talks about 12 kinds of sons. Maybe that I'll just share later. But one of the point I just shared there was that this currently we see that many people are not able to have children. But if you see 20 years back or 30 years back, this problem was hardly there actually. Previously, this problem was hardly there. And currently, it is a big problem among the society. Why this? So we have to go a little deep into the root cause of the problem. Any problem, when we address the solution only on an immediate level, for any problem there is an immediate cause, remote cause, and the ultimate cause. So on the immediate level, when we address the when we address the problem only in the immediate level, then we will get fried out after some time, because any problem, yeah, we have to address the problem in the immediate level, but along with that, you also have to address the problem in the address the remote cause of the problem, the ultimate cause of the problem. So all these solutions in the form of, say, IVF or surrogacy, the medical this thing, they are actually the ways to address this problem on an immediate level. Okay, even forget about the Shastric authorization of that. That is one thing. But another this thing is that if you are addressing only in the immediate level, not at the remote level, then like after some time the problems will become so much that a person will get frustrated when only addressing the problems in the immediate level. So what is the remote cause of these problems? Why people are unable to have children? We don't, and especially you will also see that this problem is among the Hindu community. This problem is not seen among the Muslims. So one remote cause of this problem is that because most people get married late, actually, because of the rat race of the education system and the rat race in the corporate, people postpone their marriage, and then even after that, they postpone their actually giving birth to the children. So when they get married late, then when they try to beget children late, then these problems arise. Previously, this was not the case, and and so therefore, one of the causes, because when people adopt themselves a modern system of living, then they get married late. At least one should get married in the 20s. Actually, when the tree of the body is having the full capacity to produce the fruits in the form of the, say, children, at that time we artificially suppress it, and then later when people try to beget children, they get one child at most, or very rare cases 2 children, and they get tired by the time 35, 37, and then these problems arise. And another remote cause of actually people not having children in the current times is that people have stopped performing the Shraddha ceremony. Because according to the Shastra, children come by the blessings of the forefathers. So just like rains come when you perform yajna to the devatas. When you perform yajna to the devatas. When people don't stop performing yajna to the devatas, and there is like ativrishti or anavrishti. Similarly, when people stop performing the Shraddha, the forefathers, then the children are not born. So these things have to be educated. And our children, either they don't get children, or children are born with birth deformities, birth defects. So this is connected with not performing Shraddha to the forefathers. So, like at the end of of course, we mentioned some of these points there, how they went ahead, that is a different thing. But the point is that, yeah, from Shastric point of view, it says that Devarena Sutotpatim Kalau Pancha Vivarjye, that is mentioned. It's not allowed, but so when we try to address the root cause of the problem, late marriage, one thing, and then connection to the forefathers, that is another thing, and also modern lifestyle, modern artificial lifestyle. People have a erratic schedule, night job, and different other things that actually disturbs the bodily, say, menstrual cycles of the women and many other things. So that's a different reason. But it's a side point. But so at least I attended 2 meetings. One meeting was related to the awarding saffron to the brahmacharis, and another meeting after a few weeks, like this meeting was there in the Bhaktivedanta Hospital. Some other brahmachari devotees were also there. But after that, what I came to the conclusion, what at least it made sense to me, was that the natural system is that early marriage and late saffron are the natural system. But what we have is actually the opposite to that. People have late marriage and we award early saffron. So both are actually the opposite to the natural system. That's what came to the conclusion. But it is a little digressing from the topic. But anyway, I just wanted to share. So we'll go ahead. So having been born from the womb of Ratitara's wife, all these sons were known as the dynasty of Ratitara. But because they were born through the semen of Angira Rishi, they were also known as the dynasty of Angira. So among all the progeny of Ratitara, these sons were the most prominent. Owing to their birth, they were considered Brahmanas. So they were actually, in one sense, they belong to the Brahminical dynasty as well as the Kshatriya dynasty. So in that sense, they were also described as having a mixed caste, Brahmanas and also Kshatriyas. And then further, Shukdev Goswami said, then Vaivasvata Manu sneezed. Ikshvaku was born from Manu's nostrils. So previously it was described that Vaivasvata Manu, after Sudyumna, he got 10 sons. So Sudyumna's story was described in the first chapter. The previous 9 sons were described from second chapter till the previous chapter. Now the last son, 10th son, Ikshvaku, but Ikshvaku was born in a little, not in a normal way. He was born from the nostrils of Manu. And this Ikshvaku had 100 sons, of whom Vikukshi, Nimi and Dandaka were the most prominent. So of the 100 sons of Ikshvaku, 25 became kings in the eastern side of Aryavarta. So Aryavarta is the land between Vindhya and Himalaya ranges. And then 25 sons became kings in the west of Aryavarta. And 3 principal sons became kings in the middle, and the other sons became kings in the various other places. And Ikshvaku Maharaj was performing his oblations for the Ashtaka Shraddha. So he ordered his son Vikukshi to go immediately to the forest to bring some pure flesh. So Vikukshi went to the forest and killed animals suitable for being offered as oblations. But when fatigued and hungry, he became forgetful and ate one of the rabbit. And whatever the remaining portion of the rabbit or he brought it to actually for offering to that Vedic yajna, that Shraddha. So Vikukshi gave the remnants of the flesh to King Ikshvaku, and Ikshvaku gave it to Vasishta. And Vasishta could understand that this is polluted, it is unfit to be offered for Shraddha. Because Vikukshi had eaten part of it. So one of the important things, whether in the Vedic fire yajna or in the deity worship, you cannot offer you cannot offer something which you had already eaten. This is a seva aparad. So there are 5 categories of seva aparad: negligence in spite of ability, disrespect, impurity, lack of determination, and pride. While doing deity worship or even Vedic fire yajna, one may commit different offenses. They can be classified in this 5 category. So one can, so here is this is a seva aparad. We can say this can come under the category of impurity, or we can say disrespect, or even lack of determination. Because Vikukshi, because of lack of determination, because of hunger and thirst, he ate that. Like suppose a person is doing arati, and he is feeling little tired and hungry. So one hand he keeps eating some samosa, and on another hand he is offering arati. So this is like a lack of determination to control the senses while doing deity worship. So Vikukshi performed this aparad, but Vasishta could understand that. So Prabhupada also comments in this verse that like this is here the system of offering a flesh in the Shraddha. This is also one of the things forbidden for Kali Yuga. So sannyasam pala paitrikam refers to this, offering flesh in the Shraddha to the forefathers. So therefore, like just like when you buy a medicine, there is an expiry date for the medicine. When you use the medicine beyond the expiry date, of course, there are many people, medicines may last long, but sometimes people give a shorter expiry date so that they can increase the sale of the medicine. That is one purpose. But anyway, this analogy I'm saying that when you use the medicine beyond the expiry date, it will not be effective. Similarly, these 5 things, Ashwamedham, Gavalambam, these 5 things, they have an expiry date till the Dwapar Yuga. In Kali Yuga, they are not allowed. So in Kali Yuga, when people perform, then it becomes adharma. And the Kshatriyas were allowed to eat meat. See, Vikukshi, as a Kshatriya, he was allowed to eat meat. But what is wrong is that he should not have eaten that meat which is supposed to be offered in the Shraddha. So Shudras are also allowed to eat flesh. But one thing which is not allowed is that they cannot eat the gomas. So meat eating is not completely forbidden. A particular class of men is allowed to eat meat according to the various circumstances and injunctions. And the cow flesh is never allowed. So Vikukshi offered the remnants of the flesh to King Ikshvaku, and Vasishta Rishi could understand that. And when Vasishta Rishi informed to King Ikshvaku, this particular flesh is polluted. So Ikshvaku became actually angry, and Ikshvaku Maharaj ordered Vikukshi to leave the country because he violated the rules. So Vikukshi actually left the country. And then Ikshvaku Maharaj heard spiritual instruction from Vasishta, and then he became renounced, and he achieved the supreme perfection after giving up the material body. So we see that all the kings in the 9th canto, they all attained liberation. Ikshvaku Maharaj, he attained liberation. But after his father's disappearance, Vikukshi returned to the country and he became the king. and he ruled the earth and worshipped the Lord by performing various sacrifices. So Vikukshi later became celebrated by the name Shashada. Shasha means a rabbit. Shashada means one who ate rabbit. Of course, Vikukshi's mistake was a very circumstantial mistake because he was hungry and thirsty. He was emaciated with hunger and thirst. In that connection, he committed a mistake. So he went out of the country. He must have performed atonement, and then he came back, and then he ruled the kingdom after Ikshvakumara's disappearance. So the son of Shashada was Puranjaya. This Puranjaya also had other names, Indravaga and Kakutsa. And so these three names, how he received these three names, Puranjaya, Indravaga and Kakutsa, these are described in the next few verses. So once there was a devastating war between the Devatas and the demons, and the Devatas were defeated in that war, and then they approached Puranjaya to become and asked him to become their assistant. So at that time, Puranjaya agreed to become the assistant of the Devatas, but he said that Indra should be my carrier. I will ride on Indra. But Indra actually disagreed. How can I become the carrier of Puranjaya? So he rejected he could not accept the proposal. But later, by the order of the Supreme Lord, Indra did accept it. So you see that one thing common in the material world, we also see in this chapter, in the next chapter, different stories. When you want to take the favor of somebody, you have to pay something back to the person. You will have to take some inconvenience. There are no free meals actually. So many times when you take favor from somebody, that person will try to exploit. He will try to take some advantage of your position or your resources. So Indra wanted to defeat the demons, but then he had to humble himself to become the carrier of Puranjaya. So Indra became a great bull and consented to be the carrier of Puranjaya by the order of the Supreme Lord. So then, well protected by the armor and desiring to fight, Puranjaya took up a celestial bow and sharp arrows. And being praised with the Devatas, he got up on the back of the bull. So Kakut Sta. So Kakud refers to the hump of the bull. So Kakut Sta means one who was situated on the hump of the bull. Therefore, he is called as Kakusta. And being empowered by Vishnu, Puranjaya surrounded the city of the demons in the west along with the Devatas. And there was a hair-raising battle between the demons and the Puranjaya. It was so fierce that when one hears about it, one's hairs would stand on end. And the Puranjaya killed all the demons, sent all those demons to the abode of Yamaraj. And because he actually rided on, he was riding on the back, he was riding on Indra. He had Indra as the carrier, therefore he is also called as Indravaha. So giving up the attack of the arrows of Indravaha, which resembled the flames of devastation at the end of the millennium, the demons being wounded fled to the Patala. In this way, he is called as Kakutsa. He was situated on the back, he was situated on the top of the hump of the bull. And because he had Indra as the carrier, he is called as Indravaha. And after conquering the enemy, Puranjaya gave everything back, everything to all the enemies' riches to the Devatas. So because of that, he is called as Puranjaya. One Puranjaya, that means can say that one who conquered the pura of the enemies or the riches of the enemies. Therefore, he is called as Puranjaya. By conquering the demon city, he he was known as Puranjaya, and then he gave everything to the Indra. So these are the three names: Puranjaya, Kakutstha, and Indravaha. And Puranjaya's son is Anena. Anena's son was Prutu. Prutu's son was Vishwagandhi. Vishwagandhi's son was Chandra. Chandra's son was Yuvanashva. The son of Yuvanashva was Shravastha, who constructed a township known as Shravasti. Son of Shravastha was Brihadashva, and his son was Kuvalayashva. And to satisfy the sage called as Utanka, Kuvalayashva killed a demon named Dundu with the assistance of his 21,000 sons. See, one thing we can find, like we in this chapter itself, and also throughout the history of the world, that wars regularly take place. When we talk about the concept of war and peace, in order to have peace in our life, the reality is that there has to be war at regular intervals. There has to be war for the cause of dharma. Peace will come only when there is dharma is present. And for establishing dharma, there has to be war at regular intervals. That is the reality of this world. This Devasura Sangrama, the fight between the Devas and Asuras, this is a constant phenomena in this world. This is a constant phenomena in this world that many times the people, they want peace, but they live in an idealistic world. They say, but we don't want war. But that is an artificial expectation actually. So the point is, some people, they only want war. Wanting only war is brutal. And wanting only peace is unreal. It's being idealistic. But the reality is that peace can exist after we fight the brutal war. The limited war, the war for a particular period of time. The Kurukshetra war did not remain for, not go on for eternity. Like in 18 days only it lasted. So therefore in the Sanatan Dharma we have the Trimurti principle. Trimurti principle means Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. So oftentimes we find this leftist liberals, they raise their voices. Some terrorists are attacked, or terrorists are punished. They say, oh, this is like you are interfering in their freedom. And Yaqub Memon was involved in that 1993 bomb blast. When he was about to be hanged some years back, the newspapers portrayed him like a martyr actually. He was one of the key person involved in that bomb blast in which more than 250 people were killed and crores of property were destroyed. But he was portrayed as a martyr. So this kind of this very artificial philosophy created by the people, or how the terrorists should not be punished or war should not be there. But the reality of the life is that creation, maintenance, and destruction, all three are important. So when a civilization takes for granted the other civilizations a tolerant behavior, or a tolerant civilization only focuses on positive building rather than punishing those who are miscreants, then the oppressors seldom change. Suppose a particular country is wanting to develop, but if they are only focused on economic development, if they don't punish the wrong people, if they don't try to follow the principle of Lord Shiva is for destruction, then the civilization, the country will not succeed. Therefore, all three principles are important: creation, maintenance, and destruction. So Krishna teaches us how to harmonize all the three. If you read the number of people who got killed in the 18-day Kurukshetra war, it is mentioned in the Stree Parva of the Mahabharata. I don't have the exact number here, but the number of people who got killed is much, much more than the number of people who got killed in different wars in the last several centuries. There is a war statistics available in Wikipedia, whatever according to their availability. In so many wars which have taken place in many centuries, how many people got killed? And if we take the number of people who got killed in the Kurukshetra war, it is much more, that too only in 18 days. It may appear that, let us say people started saying that, oh, Gita is promoting violence like that. But the point is that violence is also part of the life. In order to, when the old building gets dilapidated, then you have to actually destroy that building and then build something new. That is inevitable. You can't say that I don't want to destroy the building. So this Kovalayashva killed a demon named Dundu with the assistance of his 21,000 sons. But after the war, out of the 21,000 sons, only 3 sons remained. So you just see that when you are fighting war for dharma, it is not that just because you are fighting war for the sake of dharma, that does not mean that you will not suffer losses. In the Kurukshetra war, both the Kauravas and the Pandavas also, they also suffered huge losses. In the Pandavas side, the Pandavas lost their all 5 children. So Abhimanyu was killed brutally. Pandavas also lost, they suffered huge losses. So just because you are fighting for the sake of dharma, that does not guarantee that you will not suffer losses. So there, but at least you have the satisfaction that you fought for a good cause. So that is why after the war, Pandavas simply could not enjoy the kingdom. Draupadi lost all her 5 sons. It was a pure responsibility actually. Even after Yudhishthira Maharaj became the king, it was purely a responsibility. So here we see, like out of the 21,000 sons, only 3 sons remained. So therefore, fighting for the sake of dharma, it's a great sacrifice. And fighting has to be there for all the people. It is not only for the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas fight with the adharmic Kshatriyas. The Brahmanas are supposed to fight against ignorance. And Vaishyas are supposed to fight against starvation by doing agriculture and cow protection. And the Shudras are supposed to fight against alasya, laziness. So fighting is inevitable. You have to basically, our choice is basically which field of fighting you want to choose. So when people want a very peaceful life without fighting, then that is a very artificial thing. So the only 3 sons remained. They were Dhritashva, Kapilashva, and Bhadrashva. From Dhritashva came a son called Haryashva, whose son is celebrated as Nikumba. Nikumba's son was Bahulashva. His son was Krishashva. His son is Senajit. The son of Senajit is Yuvanashva. Yuvanashva had no sons, and therefore he retired from the family life and went to the forest. And Yuvanashva and his 100 wives were Moros. Yuvanashva had no sons, and he had 100 wives, but still he didn't get a son. So he took a Vanaprastha and he went to the forest. And the sages in the forest, they saw Yuvanashva and his sons' wives were Moros. And they started performing attentively Indra Yajna. So in one sense, Yuvanashva he retired, but still his desires were still there. Therefore, although he was retired, he was Moros. Sometimes a person may retire from, renounce something, but the desires are still there. Then one may not be cheerful, one may be morose. And this is called as abhava vairagya. Abhava vairagya is sometimes in the absence of not being able to obtain the desired objective, a person may show some detachment. So such detachment does not last long. So Yuvanashva, he was morose, and then the sages actually started performing a yajna. And in the course of a yajna, there's a sanctified water, and that sanctified water will be given to the wives so that they will become pregnant. But what happened? One day, Yuvanashva got up in the night. He was very thirsty. He was looking for the water, and in the sacrificial arena, he saw this part of sanctified water, and he drank that water, which was meant to be drunk by the wife. And next day morning, the Brahmanas got up from the bed and they saw that the sanctified water pot is empty. And then they inquired who did this act, and then they understood that the king had drunk that water because of his extreme thirst in the night. So Brahmanas, when they came to know that, they said that, oh, this is the act of the providence. Inspired by the supreme controller, Yuvanashva had drunk this water, and they explained that the power of providence is most powerful. In this way, they offered their obeisances to the Lord. You see that Adhishtanam Tata Karta, that verse is so profound. The Brahmanas had chosen the right Adhishta. They had chosen all the four factors perfectly. They were attentively performing the yajna. But when they understood the act of providence, the Daiva factor was inspired the Yuvanashva to drink that water. Instead of becoming morose, they just offered obeisances to the act of providence. On the other hand, if somebody was thinking like, I'm the controller, they could have become frustrated, they could have become angry. So sometimes when we talk about Purushartha and Daiva, which is more important? Purushartha is a human endeavor, Daiva is the act of the providence. Which is more important? If we see, when Yudhishthira Maharaj asked this question to Bhishma Dev, which is more important, Purushartha or Daiva, Bhishma Dev said that Purushartha is more important. Because Yudhishthira Maharaj was supposed to become the king, but he was not wanting to become the king after the war. And Bhishma Dev emphasized that Purushartha is more important. When Dhritarashtra asked the same question to Vidura, Vidura said Daiva is more important. Because Dhritarashtra was destined not to become the king. His sons were destined not to become the king, but still they were putting the Purushartha to somehow or other become the king. Therefore, Vidura remained that no, Daiva is more important. Accept the Daiva that you are not supposed to become the king. Therefore, answer to this question, Purushartha or Daiva, which is more important? The answer depends on the impact it will create on the person who will hear that answer. The answer depends on the candidate involved. So for a young person who has his whole life ahead, the Purushartha is the most important. For the young people, you cannot simply talk about renunciation. You have to talk about how they have to endeavor to achieve different things in their life and offer that in Krishna's service. So we have to talk about the Purushartha for the young people. For the old people, we have to talk about the Daiva. They are done with their responsibilities. Now they should just focus on depending on Krishna. So in the case of Dhritarashtra, Daiva was the important factor. Therefore, Vidura emphasized that. But Dhritarashtra was not ready to accept that. And therefore he had to pay a very severe price for that. He had to lose all his 100 sons because he was putting the Purushartha in the wrong direction instead of accepting the Daiva. And for Yudhishthira Maharaj, Purushartha is important, which is what Bhishmadev emphasized. And Yudhishthira Maharaj accepted that and he became the king and ruled the kingdom responsibly. So here the Brahmanas accepted, oh, this is the act of the providence, and they offered obeisances to the Lord. And then in due course of time, a son with all the good symptoms of a powerful king came forth from the lower right side of King Yuvanashva's abdomen. Because Yuvanashva was the person who drank that water. So 9th canto is filled with many strange stories actually. So then they asked like, who will take care of this baby actually? It seems, I don't know whether all the wives of the king Yuvanashva were not there or I'm not sure. Who will take care of the baby, they said. Then Indra, who was worshipped in the sacrifice, he came and solaced the baby. Oh, do not cry, Indra said. Then Indra put his index finger in the baby's mouth and said, you may drink me, you may suck my forefinger. And then because Yuvanashva, the father of the baby, was blessed by the Brahmanas, he did not fall a victim to death. After this incident, he performed severe austerities and achieved perfection in that very spot. Achieved perfection in that very spot. So maybe it looks like achieved perfection in that very spot. This is a story till the Yuvanashva. And Mandata is the son of Yuvanashva. And this particular son, Mandata, he became the emperor of the entire Sapta Dvipa. Because he was born after Yuvanashva drank that sacred water in the Yajna. Mandata, he became the cause of fear even for Ravana and other criminals who caused anxiety. Therefore, one of the name of Mandata was Trasa Dasyu, one who gave fear to the criminals. Trasa Dasyu. And this name was given by Indra, and he became the unrivaled emperor of the entire Sapta Dvipa. That means Jambu Dvipa, Kusha Dvipa, Shalmali Dvipa, Plaksha Dvipa, all these Dvipas. And by performance of sacrifice with plentiful donations, Mandata, the knower of the Lord, worshipped the Lord who is beyond the senses, who represents all the Devatas. Sarva Devamayam Devam, Sarvatmakam Atindriyam, who is the soul of all beings. Sarvatmakam, who is non-different from sacrifices and who is non-different from its ingredients, who is non-different from its mantras, its rules, its sponsor, its priests, its results, its time and its space and its place. So for this 36th verse, we can say this is similar to the Gita verse. Brahmarpanam Brahma Kavir, Brahmagnav Brahmana Hutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. All the elements in the sacrifice, the mantra which is being chanted, the ladle, the ingredients which are offered, the sacrificial arena, all these things, because the sacrifice is performed for Brahman, all these things attain the spiritual identity. And the same thing was also told by Prithu Maharaj when he was instructing the citizens. Yeah, he told that this sacrifice, with all the ingredients, colors, rituals, mantras, having a nature of pure condensed knowledge Brahman. Because the sacrifice is performed for Brahman, although the ingredients may be in Rajoguna and Tamoguna, because ultimately the sacrifice is performed for the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, everything becomes spiritualized. As what Krishna says that Aham Praturaham Yajna, Swadaham Aham Aushadam, Mantroham Aham Evajyam, Aham Agnir Aham Bhutam. I am the sacrificial ritual, I am the sacrifice, I am the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, I am the transcendental chant. So all the places from where the sun rises to where the sun sets, because the entire Saptadvipa are known as the land of Mandata, the son of Yonashva. And this Mandata begot 3 sons in the womb of his wife Bindumati. And these sons were Purukutsa, Ambarisha, and Muchukunda. And these 3 brothers had 50 sisters, and who accepted the great sage Shaubari as their husband. So when our Vamsivadan Prabhu, if he comes, somebody can tell me. I'll stop at that time.
Yes, Prabhuji, he has arrived. Prabhuji. He is in the meeting now.
Okay. Prabhuji is ready to address? Or
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji is ready. Yes, Prabhuji.
okay.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Vansivadan Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Should I begin?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances to all the devotees. Especially like to thank Radhika Vallabha Prabhu for kindly taking out your valuable time to spend with the devotees at Pune. So I'm sure that all the devotees are very much relishing the nectar that you are sharing with them. So unfortunately, I've come to interrupt the nectar with maybe something not so pleasant. But anyways, a part of Krishna Katha. So, okay, so Prabhuji, if you want to take a break, that's fine. So it'll take about 10-15 minutes for the announcement.
You can take your time.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. So, so the Bhaktivedanta students. So first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to all of you for kindly taking out your valuable time from all your busy schedules to attend the course. So I know all of you are very busy preachers and having so many different services, but you're kindly agreeing to attend these courses. At the same time, we would like to give some reminders about some policies which we had announced some months back. We had also circulated the document on these policies to all the students. So we would just like to take a little time to remind you of these. So we are doing that as a service to on behalf of the BVRV. This is a service to the Board of Examinations. The policies have been set by the Board of Examinations, which is a representative of the GBC and ultimately Srila Prabhupada. So therefore, as servants, we are obliged to follow the standards and the policies that they have set. And therefore, we are trying to render the small service and thus remind all of you. So Arjuneshwar Prabhu, are you displaying the attendance policies document there?
Yes, Prabhuji, I just shared.
Yes. So So as we know that according to the policies of the Board of Examinations, the students need a minimum of 75% attendance per unit. And okay, go down. Right, so I'm just reading these policies. We already have read them out before. We have also circulated them. So so attendance can be online or offline depending on situation. Online attendees need to keep their videos on for the entire duration of the class. And if they have technical difficulties, they need to inform the batch coordinator. If one is unable to attend classes beyond the 75% limit, then he needs to submit a letter at least 24 hours prior to the commencement of the class, or in case of emergency at the earliest possible. The letter needs to be addressed to the respective batch coordinators or the respective BVRV email IDs as given in the guidelines document. In case of one failing to submit the letter, one will be marked absent and the total attendance for the unit will be below 75%. Next. Since we're usually, now you've gone? Oh, okay. Okay. Students coming 15 minutes beyond the scheduled beginning time of the class will mark late, and thus the attendance for the day will be 50%. This will be applicable for 25% of the total number of classes for the unit. Okay, so I'm not reading the entire thing. I think so you got the point there. Fifth point is, since we're usually announcing the schedules of the courses well in advance, students are requested not to schedule any other event during this time. Such events, if planned after the announcement of the course schedule, will not be considered as valid reasons for absenteeism. Sixth point, if attendance is below 75% per unit, as per policies of the ISKCON Board of Examinations, take it up. One needs to repeat the unit, either in another batch of BVRV or at any other place like MIV, HUL. And one will not be allowed to appear for CBA nor submit OBA for the particular unit if attendance is below 75%. At the end of every unit, the batch coordinators will inform the students who are failing in the attendance criteria. So all of us may be aware of these policies, definitely, but at the same time, there is, being in the material world, there's a tendency for forgetfulness. So we are just reminding. Also, because till now, classroom facilities were not so good and there were some other challenges. We have not actually implemented these policies, though we did announce them at least twice before. And so now, since we have good facilities and all the students can gather at one place and attend the classes, so we just want to humbly request that all of you kindly stick to these policies. Otherwise, we are from now onwards, from the next unit onwards, or from this unit onwards, we are going to implement the policies. Okay. So, because as I did mention right in the beginning, that these are not our policies, these are the standards set by the Board of Examinations, and we are simply representing them. We are simply trying to follow them. And so therefore, as a service to them, we will implement the policies. And so therefore, henceforth, we will not make any further announcements or any further reminders on the policies. The policies will be directly implemented. Okay. So if also we request all devotees who are within the temple campus to, if they are present in the temple campus, then we request them to attend the classes in the classroom and not online. Okay. So unless there is any good reason for that, anyone who is in the temple campus is requested to attend the classes in the classroom, okay, and not online. And as far as possible, as we already mentioned, that we recommend that students are present in the classroom physically, and so not make such plans by which they'll be forced to attend online. All right. So also, we had already announced similar policies for the closed book exam, open book exam, shloka test, presentations. All these policies have been given. And so henceforth, these policies will be directly implemented and no further reminders will be given. So it's a very humble request on behalf of the BVRV and the Board of Examinations that we kindly try to follow these various policies. And one can understand that these policies should not be considered as an enforcement. In fact, as devotees, no policies, no rules actually need to be there, because we are studying the Srimad Bhagavatam not for anyone else, but if I am sincere and if I study properly and if I take part in the course properly, then I stand to benefit. Nobody else. I stand to benefit. If I don't perform my devotional service sincerely, I stand to lose. Nobody else. So it is in our own best interest that we follow. If we follow, that will bring pleasure to the senior devotees and ultimately Srila Prabhupada. And by their pleasure, Yasya Prasada, Bhagavad Prasada. By their pleasure, then we will get the mercy, we will get benefited, and by that mercy, we can actually have realizations. We can actually have realized knowledge and not simply theoretical bookish knowledge. We very often cited the purport to take 6.8 of the Bhagavad Gita. You can go through it. But to the degree, if we want realized knowledge and not simply bookish knowledge, then that only comes by grace. And grace comes by following. And so therefore, it's in our good interest that we try to follow. Hare Krishna. Does anyone have any clarifications or questions? Yes, Arjun Ishapru, you can ask them if they have some.
Prabhuji, regarding attendance, this is always very difficult, because many even online devotees also, they come, but even if you can see, some of the videos are off still. And right now some videos are on, but still after again reminding, devotees are keeping their videos off. Some of the devotees, not all. And regarding offline devotees, because this is a very means it's like a course, but sometimes it is taken like a normal Bhagavatam class, so in which people can come and go. So that also has to be strengthened, or it should be.
Yes, so I mean, everything is very clear. Regarding the videos, we have already said that unless some has some technical issues, so kindly keep the video on. See, I mean, no one is a small kid here. Everyone is, all are very senior devotees. This is Bhakti Vedanta course. Just imagine, this is Bhakti Vedanta course. So, I mean, actually at this level, there should not be any need for any rules, regulations, anything. Everyone should be spontaneously actually attracted to studying the Bhagavatam. That should be the standard. This is Bhakti Vedanta course. Just imagine it's Srila Prabhupada's title. So actually, it's very embarrassing for me to even come forward and present these things. Now, everyone is so senior, mature. There's no need for all this actually. But so therefore, we cannot follow up people like kids. We have done our part. We have made the announcement, and after that, then we leave every student to reciprocate with the Paramatma. Okay, so however the Paramatma is inspiring and however one wants to reciprocate, so one can do that. But at the same time, we also made the point so that the policies will be implemented. That means regarding 15 minutes late, and also we are hearing that some devotees, they leave also early without giving any valid reasons, all that. So we sincerely request everyone to sincerely follow. And as we said, this is for our own benefit. Okay, so we are not doing, by practicing Krishna consciousness sincerely, we're not doing a favor to someone else. We're doing a favor to our own souls who are engaged in this material body, and we're trying to liberate the soul. So it's in our own benefit. So therefore, So if somebody has genuine reason, they're not unable to on the video, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so we don't want to force that. And what's the other point you said, Prue? You said people are taking this like a normal Bhagavatam class, walk in anytime, walk out anytime. So, so fine. As far as walking in is concerned, I think so. We have some. So we have some policy there, 15 minutes. So as far as walking out is concerned, so again, we cannot control everyone. We cannot control the world. We cannot. So it's beyond. We have certain limitations. So it's up to you. If there is some genuine reason you want to go for some genuine reason, that's up to you. But please note this ultimate point that whatever we are doing in a practice of devotional service is for our own benefit. Anything else, Arjuneshwar Prabhu?
Guruji, some devotees are concerned that this time 11 o'clock is little early. They wanted afternoon time after 2, but still we have to take the vote of all the devotees. So,
This timing was decided when the Bhaktivedanta course started. This timing was decided with the consensus of all the students and participants at that time. If all the students wish to have a change of timings, then Arjuneshwar Prabhu, you can take a vote as to how many students want a change of timing. We are in a democratic country, everything goes by democracy. That means a majority vote. But in any case, you can, if you want, you can take a vote. And then of course, that has to be conveyed to Radheshyam Prabhu if any change of timings needs to be done, because Radheshyam Prabhu had said that all the courses must be essentially be in the morning hours, first 2 weeks. So, but you can take a vote if there's a need for a change, then we can convey it to Radheshyam Prabhu and accordingly make changes.
about attendance, that mail policy is difficult to follow for many of the devotees.
Why? Okay, if not mail, SMS?
SMS is okay. SMS or chat they give, but mail very hardly we receive, and it is difficult for many of the devotees to do that. Means even even just 5 minutes before also comes. One day is quite far. 5 minutes.
1 day is quite far.
I'm talking about practical, Broji.
No. See, it's not that this is something ad hoc. This course is well known every first 2 weeks. That's why it is kept first 2 weeks. Everyone knows. First 2 weeks of the month, the schedule is announced well in advance. So all schedules should be made accordingly. The priority has to be given. So if something is coming up last minute, if it's really emergency, then it's understandable. And emergency should be rare. If emergency is coming on a regular basis, it's not emergency then. So therefore, so if it is anything after 24 hours or less than 24 hours from the commencement of the class, that means it's an emergency. Emergencies are rare. Do you agree or no?
Yes, Broji.
Yes. Otherwise, it's not an emergency. And then if we are having so many emergencies, then I think so we have to look at our schedules.
Yes, Broji.
Any of the other students want to have any concerns?
Prabhuji, I have a query, a request. Prabhuji, this is Krishna Rupa Devidasi, Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, there is a request from my side that regarding the attendance, if we know that how much is our attendance, though actually I try to attend 100% always, but if we get our attendance sheets, then we are also having this that, oh, now this time 100%, okay, let's next also. It gives a little motivation also. That,
Yes,
okay.
so that's the last point that has been put in the policies, that the batch coordinator has to give the attendance report. Both the attendance report can be given to us at the BBRV as well as to the students. Is that okay, Arjuneshwar Prabhu?
Yeah.
Broji, this last to last month, BBRB has sent the marks as well as attendance. So they are sending marks as well as attendance. When the CB is checked, then they are sending to everyone individually. So attendance is going with the marks.
Okay, fine. But then that depends on whether the papers are checked on time and the CBA results go on time. So if so, I don't know whether both of them can be clubbed together. The attendance at least can be done regularly, isn't it?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
this is like we are like offline attendees. We attend physically every time.
Yes.
So, but sometimes we have to go to our voice centers like on sudden notice. So we are going to attend online program there. So, but is it that for online attendees also we have to write mail? They said ki for temple, those who are attending in temple, they have stricter norms. Is it so or?
I didn't get it, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, if we want to attend 1 day class online, like
Okay.
one of the days, so for that also do we need to write mail?
So it's good if you can at least inform the coordinator that today you won't be attending offline, but you'll be attending online. At least that much information can be given. Otherwise, he'll be wondering, where are you?
Yes.
Prabhuji, there is a question, means the percentage of online and offline. Now, right now, Corona is there, so none of us are going outside. But when it will be, option will be there, then most of devotee will go away. So then, because online option will be there that time.
No. This point has been made very clear, that the reason why the first 2 weeks have been fixed is because students can make plans accordingly to be in the temple or be in town for the first 2 weeks. And all other preaching engagements can be done in the next 2 weeks. That's what Radhisham Prabhu expects.
Prabhuji, but they are also asking that some of the Pune devotees, they are attending online.
So that's what I said, that if somebody is in Pune, then they should not be online. They should be in the class. That's the policy. That's how it should be. So now, of course, maybe somebody like Sanatan Dharma Prabhu and Madan Sundar Prabhu may be in their places, and maybe because of Corona, it's difficult to travel or whatever. I don't know that. But as far as possible, they can be in the temple, those who are in Pune.
Prabhuji, I am only one Mataji. That is why I get very scared to come in that room. So I am attending from home. Otherwise, I like to be present personally and attend the class, because we are able to, understand, grasp more nicely.
Yes, definitely. Of course, regarding congregation devotees, I don't know what are temple policies, whether they can come or no. That maybe Arjuneshwar Prabhu can clarify.
One Mataji, so I am little very reluctant and hesitant that among so many brahmacharis, one Mataji sitting in the class.
Yeah, so that you can discuss with Arjuneshwar Prabhu and see about that. But I'm speaking in general for all other devotees. And
Prabhuji, Madan Sundar Das here. I'm
yes,
attending classes in person only. Done works.
Fine. Thank you so much.
So
Thank you.
for that.
Hare
Prabhu, go ahead, your question.
Prabhuji, this is regarding some devotees are continuously there because of they are not situated in Pune maybe, but they attend this course online. So 100% they're like online. But when we as a temple devotees over here, but we have to go, like I have a very simple concern, like we go to voice, but in voices there are systems where we get holiday, where students get holidays on a certain days, and these days are also our Bhakti Vedanta discourse. So surely we will like that we be in voice, we attend online, and we go ahead with our voice services also. So is it wrong in this if we inform them the day or a prior that we will not be here, because it doesn't make it all
Fine.
the
So yes. So that's that we have already said. So if you have to go to the voice and it's like absolutely essential, then it can be considered as an important valid reason. So you inform at least a day prior and you can go.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So Proji, actually regarding timings, so I don't have concern of 2 o'clock, but I have concern like 11 to 11:30, means like instead of 11, we can have 11:30, because many times speaker comes, so it becomes late, and after that everything like some chant or take prasad and then take rest. So without rest becomes many times tough. Many times I see. So
okay, fine. So I mean, regarding timings that you all can discuss. So all the students can discuss, and also Arjuneshwar Prabhu can discuss. And if everyone wants a change, then that's fine. Half an hour changes.
Hare Krishna. I have one question. If it becomes 11:30, that is good, but then it's then 11:30 to 2. will become too much because 1:30 prasadam start.
So that's what. So therefore, you all have to discuss amongst yourselves. I mean, there's no point in discussing. I mean, everyone may have their concerns. So you have to discuss amongst yourselves and take a vote. Is it okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so so please note once again, as a very humble request, we are saying that these are not our policies; these are policies of the Board of Examinations, and so therefore we will be implementing them from now onwards. And so you may just get a mail that okay, this unit your attendance is falling short, and so therefore you are kindly requested to attend the unit again. So
I have one question, bro.
go
This,
ahead.
like sometimes after the class, maybe at 1:30 or like that, some question answers are there, some questions are there extra. So the speaker may answer them. So after the time, which is like scheduled time, 1:30, then if we leave, so we can leave or not?
Yes, yes. After the scheduled time, you're most welcome to leave.
Fine.
Prabhuji, about this, just now you told no? About the CB, those who are falling short of attendance. Now they have to attend the classes which are recorded class, or they have to attend the fresh class.
Yes, as see the policy is very clear. Just read it. What does the policy say?
Next time it is saying next.
Yes, in another batch. In another batch, not recorded classes. That's not allowed. This is an another batch.
So okay, Prabhuji, but yeah.
And we are not saying another batch in Pune. You can even join other batches, Mayapur, Vrindavan, where.
Yes, yes.
And again, I'm repeating the same point. It is not our policies. If I want, I can send you the direct document of the Board of Examinations. You can see it. We are simply repeating those.
Prabhuji, I had one more query. Prabhuji, after the 9th canto, we will be studying 10th, 11th, and 12th also. No, we'll not halt after 9th canto.
No halting.
At that insecurity that because of too many problems, if most of the devotees leave and not, study Bhakti Vedanta, then the batch will be dissolved. So I had this one.
No. We are completing it.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
All right, Arjunesh Pro, anything else?
There is a concern about sloka also. Just wanted to share the concern that sloka test is going to immediately come, but none of us have experienced the recitation of sloka, that habit. So
habit, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav is over.
No, means it's just a concern of some of the devotees project I'm sharing that they wanted that if it can be in some regular, some writing, some test में अगर कुछ आता है, I'm just sharing the concern.
I mean, already there's enough experience of learning shlokas. All of you are, many of you are shloka experts. You can recite so many verses. I mean, Pune devotees are pandits. I mean, this concern.
These are big shlokas.
Yeah, for big devotees, big courts, big shlokas.
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay, Prabhuji.
No problem. Okay, fine. Thank you all very much for your kind participation and your kind tolerance. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samayat Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Bhaktivedanta Course ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Should we take a break?
Prabhuji, 5-minute break we can take, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. I will reassemble at 12:49. Yes, Prabhuji, we can start.
Yeah. So I'll take up any questions at the end because I wanted to complete it. So we saw that King Mandata had 3 sons and he had 50 daughters. The 50 daughters were accepted by Shaubari Muni. So the last part of the 6th chapter is the story of Shaubari Muni. Because most of us know the storyline, but I'll just highlight some of the important points in the storyline. So, and Shaubari Muni was engaged in austerity. He saw the 2 fishes fighting with each other under the water, and then by that his desire to enjoy was awakened, and then he came to King Mandata. And he asked King to actually to one of his daughter, and because Shaubari Muni was told, any of my daughters may accept my any husband according to her personal selection. You go to actually beat my daughters, whichever daughter actually wants you, let her get married to you. So there is a concept of Swayamvara in the Vedic culture. Swayamvara, where the girl would be allowed to choose the husband according to her choice. So essentially, the point is that when a person is trained, after training, a girl is given that independence. So the king said that let my daughters have 50 daughters. Let any of them actually choose you as the husband. The Shaubari Muni thought that I am an old person. I will not be attracted to any of the young daughters of King Mandata. So therefore, he decided to take up the form of a young person. So by his mystic siddhis, he became a very young, handsome man. And he said he was thinking that I will become such a handsome man that I will become attractive even to the celestial women. What to speak of these earthly women. So thinking in that way, he assumed a very beautiful form. And then all these 50 princes, when they saw that, all of them desired to get married to Shaubari Muni. And in fact, they quarreled with each other that I will only get married to Shaubari Muni. Like all of them actually started quarreling with each other. The Shaubari Muni, because of his mystic siddhis, he got married to all these people, and he expanded into 50 farms, and he created such opulent mansions and enjoyed with all of them, and with beautiful gardens and parks, and with all these gardens, just like Kardama Muni actually made by his mystic siddhi, he made a beautiful airplane. Here, Shaubari Muni, by his mystic siddhi, he created a very beautiful facility for actually enjoying the pleasure with his actually wives. Shaubari Muni's home was amply provided with a valuable bed, seats, ornaments, and arrangements for bathing. And there are varieties of sandalwood creams, flower gardens, and palatable dishes. Thus surrounded by the opulent paraphernalia, the Muni engaged in family affairs with his numerous wives. And King Mandata, when he saw the opulence of Shaubari Muni, so you have to remember that King Mandata was the unrivaled emperor of the entire Sapta Dweepa. But when he saw the opulence of Shaubari Muni, he developed a spirit of renunciation. Vismita Stamba Majahat Sarvabhauma Shriyanvitam. He was wonderstruck, and he gave up his false prestige in the position as the emperor of the world. So here I will just few weeks back I was taking some class at another place. So I was just trying to compare the life of Kardama Muni and Shaubari Muni. There is an interesting comparison we can see. In the case of Kardama Muni, for many years, he was going with Devahuti to different places in the universe, to those holiday spots which even the demigods did not have access. There is a detailed description in the third canto, 23rd chapter, 23rd or 24th. And Shaubari Muni, for many years, he was performing austerities under the water all alone. And Kardama Muni, after many years of enjoyment with the Devahuti and then begetting children in Devahuti, all of a sudden, Kardama Muni exhibited detachment. He was about to leave home. And Shaubari Muni, after many years of austerity, suddenly he exhibited attachment. He gets married to 50 daughters of Mandata. So generally, we see that one gets surprised when somebody, for many years, a person led a say austere life, and suddenly a person becomes attached to some mundane sense enjoyment. The people become wonderstruck, like what happened to him? Like, and on the other hand, somebody for many years, a person is behaving like a common materialist. Because that is how it happened. It appears from the description of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. And suddenly Kardama Muni, like without even giving a slightest indication, he was about to leave home. And Kardama Muni was also a great mystic siddhi. He exhibited his mystic siddhis to create spaceship. And when by seeing the Kardama Muni's detachment, the sudden detachment, Devahuti was astonished. And here Shaubari Muni was also a mystic siddhi. By seeing the opulence of Shaubari Muni, Mandata was astonished. And then when Devahuti saw the detachment of Kardama Muni, and you must read those verses, you must already read that third canto, 23rd chapter, last verses of that chapter. And Devahuti, she understood, it dawned upon her that actually the real opulence of Kardama Muni is his spirit of detachment and devotion to the Lord within. And then Devahuti laments there that, oh, I did not take advantage of the association of such a great soul, Kardama Muni. Rather, I used his association for my sense enjoyment. Devahuti says that Saham Bhagavato Nunam Vanchita Mayaya Dridam Yatvam Vimuktidam Prapya Na Mumuksheya Bandhanat. I have been thoroughly cheated by the illusory potency. Having attained the association of a person like Kardama Muni who can give liberation, I did not desire liberation from bondage. And here, so Kardama Muni's detachment inspired detachment in Devahuti. But here, Shaubari Muni's attachment and opulences, that inspired detachment in Mandata. Because Mandata was thinking that, oh, I am the unrivaled emperor. I have so much of opulence. When he saw the opulence of Shaubari Muni, he was humbled. So in our life, actually, it is a great blessing when we are in the association of people who are better than us. When we are in the association of people who are better than us, in whichever field, then that actually keeps us humbled, actually. So at least it could be somebody with the association of somebody who is better than us in Kirtan, or somebody who is better than us in say giving classes, or somebody who's better than us as in say youth preaching or cooking, or it can be any field actually. So mandata developed detachment. So what is the, if you see one comparison, what made Kardama Muni suddenly exhibit detachment? Because when you read those series of verses in the third canto, how Kardama Muni was going to various places, the description of the spaceship. Here in the ninth canto, Shaubari Muni's mystic siddhi, his opulence is also described briefly in one verse. Third canto is described in detail, Kardama Muni. And then Kardama Muni suddenly he was about to leave home. So what made Kardama Muni suddenly exhibit the detachment is that Kardama Muni, although he was externally engaged in enjoyment with his wife Devahuti, but internally he had maintained a spirit of detachment, which was invisible to Devahuti. He had internally maintained a spirit of detachment, which was invisible to Devahuti. But in the case of Shaubari Muni, yeah, he was engaged in austerities, but internally somehow he had maintained a spirit of attachment. Vishwanath Chakravarti, of course, he gives another reason, because he offended Garuda. He told that if Garuda comes and eats fishes in this particular lake, then he will die. This is a wrong compassion. Jive Daya, Vaishnava Seva, Name Ruchi, all three are actually interdependent actually. One is as a result of Name Ruchi, it naturally results in Vaishnava Seva and Jive Daya. If Jive Daya is contradictory to Vaishnava Seva, then it is not true Jive Daya. In showing compassion to the fishers, he was actually chastising, he was actually giving a punishment or a curse to an associate of the Lord, Garuda. Therefore, it was not real Jivedaya. So, because of that, Shaubari Muni, he lost the ability to control his senses. That is a spiritual reason given by Vishwanath Chakravarti. But we can also see in another way that Shaubari Muni, he had maintained a spirit of attachment. So sometimes a person maybe externally, say, living the life of a, say, sadhu or a renunciant, but sometimes we may maintain some attachment in our life. So because of maintaining some attachment, and that may be invisible to the people around us, just like for Kardama Muni, the spirit of detachment which he maintained in his life, that was invisible to Devahuti. Therefore, Devahuti was astonished when Kardama Muni was about to leave the house. And similarly, sometimes a person is leading the life of a sadhu or renunciant, and we may maintain some attachment. And then that will be invisible to others, and suddenly that attachment manifests in a particular way, and at that time others become astonished. So how is it that suddenly this person is behaving like that? So therefore, it is important. That's why the Sanat Kumara is telling to Kritu Maharaj, Indriyair Vishaya Krishtir Akshiptam Dhyayatam Manaha Chetanam Harate Buddhe Stambhastoyam Iva Kradat. So when we maintain a spirit of attachment, what does it do? It actually results in an invisible theft. I think somebody's voice has to be muted. Sound is. So Sanat Kumara is telling that a person is in the forest. He's all alone, but when he's meditating on the sense objects, that contemplation on the sense objects will actually take away his discrimination and intelligence. Just like the grass takes away the water from a lake. Sometimes the lake is filled with water. 1 week later, you come to the lake has become dry, and nobody has came and actually took away the water, but the lake has become dry. So the grass on the banks of the lake that actually completely took away the water. So therefore, that is called the invisible theft. So therefore, from the example of Kardamamuni, what we can learn is that Kardamuni's example is especially, we can say, relevant for the Grahastha. As a Grahastha, one may be involved in different worldly responsibilities. He may have to attend social functions. He has to engage the senses in contact with the sense objects in the family or in the different this thing. But although one may be engaged in different things, engage the senses of the sense objects, internally one should maintain a spirit of detachment. And that is what Kardamamuni did. And this is called as, technically called as Bhavata Parityaga. That means that externally one may engage the senses of the sense objects, but internally one should cultivate the spirit of detachment. One should not cultivate the spirit. One should not have the enjoyment spirit. And that is what Krishna says in the Gita, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaischaran Atma Vashir Videyatma Prasadam Adhigachyati. When Arjuna asked the question, how does a Sita Pragya engage the senses of the sense objects? In answer to that, Krishna gives this answer, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu. Although a Sita Pragya, he may be engaging the senses of the sense objects, but he is freed from Raga and Dvesha within. He has a controlled mind. Therefore, he attains peace. So, Kardamamuni, he practiced what is called as Bhavata Parityaga. This is an important principle for a Grahastha whose very lifestyle involves engaging the senses of the sense objects. Shaubari Muni, from Shaubari Muni, what we can learn is that although we may be externally leading the life of a renunciant, but we have to introspect, am I maintaining some attachment? Am I maintaining some attachment to some activity which is not conducive for following this path of renunciation? So that is an important thing. So therefore, that is why there is another principle called as Swarupata Parityaga. Swarupata Parityaga means there are certain sense enjoyment which should be completely given up. Bhavata Parityaga is that certain sense enjoyment can be accepted, but internally one should have the spirit of detachment. Swarupata Parityaga means certain activities, certain sense enjoyments, you should be completely given up. So for a person in the renounced order, say brahmachari or a sannyasi or a sadhu, certain sense enjoyment can be accepted. Suppose some devotees invite prasadam. So in order to reciprocate with the devotee, dadati, pratigranati, we may go and accept prasadam. But internally, we should not be thinking, oh, here they are inviting prasadam, there is going to be like a big feast. Internally, we should not enjoy that. We should be done in the mood of service when we go to somebody's house for taking prasadam. So we should follow the principle of Bhavata Parityaga in regards to, say, prasadam invitations or accepting sometimes certain facilities one may have to accept the course of preaching. But we should follow the principle of Bhavata Parityaga. Our Grahasthas have to follow the principle of Bhavata Parityaga. They may have to attend, say, different functions, they have to do different other activities. And Swarupata Parityaga also has to be practiced. Swarupata Parityaga involves like tamasic sense gratification. Or Rajasic sense gratification, tamasic or say Rajasic, which is again the principles of Dharma, we should be completely given up. So that should also be practiced as a brahmachari or sannyasi. Some connection with the opposite sex there are certain activities which should be completely given up. In that case, we have to follow Swarupada Parityaga, those activities. Even in the case of Grihasthas, suppose you may have to go for a certain function or some, one may have to go for some corporate meeting, but the many items may be served. Sometimes you may have to accept something, but even in that, you can't accept anything. You have to, it will be different things will be served, but some things have to be completely given up. So that's why Swarupada Parityaga has to be practiced in regards to certain items. Bhavata Parityaga has to be practiced in regards to certain items. So we can see, and so Devaguti's conclusion, Devaguti's final realization after seeing the renunciation of Kardama Muni is that I did not take advantage of the association of a great devotee like you. It is said that by one moment of association with a great soul, a person attains liberation. She said that Indriyarteshu sajjantya prasangastvai me kritaha ajanantya parambhavam tatapyastu abhayayame. I have associated with you while being attached to enjoyment and not knowing your superior position as a devotee with great detachment. So I did not take advantage of association of you because I didn't know your great position. And Shaubari Muni's final realization after going through this entire episode of getting married and having 100 children through each of his wives, he got 5,000 children. After going through the whole family affairs, finally he came to the conclusion that I was not in the association of devotees. I didn't have the association of devotees. He says that one should live alone. Actually, one should live in the association of devotees. If there is no association, one should live completely alone. You will read that verse. So at the end, in one sense, Shaubari Muni's final realization also leads to the association of devotees. Therefore, these two episodes have, I found something in common, Kardama Muni and Shaubari Muni's life. So therefore, Kardama Muni, he enjoyed with Devahuti, but he enjoyed without attachment. So in life, we go through some happy occasions and some distressful occasions, enjoyment or sometimes lamentation. So when we go through periods of lamentation, we should go through lamentation without identification. Arjuna lamented when Abhimanyu died, but he continued the service. When we identified with that object, then we actually we fail to perform dharma, or we actually we lose faith in God, we stop performing dharma. So we should go through lamentation without identification, and we should go through the period of enjoyment without attachment. So therefore, when we witness the passing of our good and bad karma without reacting to it, then we progress in spiritual life. So Kardama Muni went through enjoyment without attachment. But on the other hand, we see Pururava and Yayati, they went through enjoyment with attachment. Shaubari Muni, he enjoyed with attachment, and of course, finally he developed a detachment because of his past piety, etc. Dhritarashtra and Chitraketu Maharaj, they lamented because of the identification with the objects of their lamentation. So here we see that in the case of Shaubari Muni, so Prabhupada says here, those who are not Atma Tattvavit, who do not know the spiritual value of life, can be satisfied with external material opulences, but those who are Atma Tattvavit are not inspired by the material opulence. This is the instruction we can derive from the life of Shaubari Muni. And then Shaubari Muni enjoyed the sense gratification, but he was not at all satisfied, just as a fire never ceases blazing if constantly supplied with the drops of fat. Kamarupena Kaunteya Dushpurena Nalena Cha. So Kama can never be satisfied. So Shaubari Muni did not feel satisfied. So one day Shaubari Muni was expert in chanting the mantras. He actually was sitting down. He realized his fall down. He contemplated on his fall down. And he contemplated how he actually fell down because of the association with some fish. So Vishwanath Chakravartipad mentions here the reason of his fall down is actually because he tried to chastise a superior Vaishnava, Garuda. So therefore, compassion, when we talk about compassion, compassion should be in harmony with the Vaishnava Seva. And yeah, so here you can read this particular 50th. So 50th and 51st verse, somebody can read translation.
50th verse. Alas, while practicing austerity even within the depth of the water, and while observing all the rules and regulations practiced by saintly persons, I lost the results of my long austerities simply by association with the sexual affairs of fish. Everyone should observe this fall down and learn from it. A person desiring liberation from material bondage must give up association of persons interested in sex life and should not employ his senses externally in seeing, hearing, talking, walking, and so on. One should always stay in a secluded place, completely fixing his mind at the lotus feet of the unlimited personality of Godhead. And if one wants any association at all, one should associate with persons similarly engaged.
So you see that when a person commits an offense, once the consciousness becomes materially inflammable. That means even the slightest trigger of some sense object can actually can cause the person's downfall. You can't even recognize, you can't even distinguish between a male fish and a female fish. So two fishes coming together, that should not actually trigger a person's sensual desires. But because Shaubari Muni had committed an offense, his consciousness became materially inflammable, and therefore he couldn't, even the two fishes mating with each other, that actually incited the greatest fire of lust. And when a person practices bhakti, and suppose he has not attained perfection, he has not become mature, but by the previous practice of bhakti, a person's consciousness becomes devotionally inflammable. And then that person in the future life, when he comes in contact with some devotee or some act of bhakti, immediately all the past impressions of devotional service get awakened. Immediately he takes to devotional service very serious. And that is what Krishna says in the 6th chapter. Purvabhyasena teneva kriyate kyavashopi saha jigyasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. Because of the previous practice of bhakti, one becomes naturally attracted towards the yogic principles. And we can see the example of Bilomangal Thakur. Bilomangal Thakur was a devotee previously, but in that life he was attached to a prostitute. But just that one sentence from a prostitute, that awakened his Krishna consciousness. Because the previous practice of bhakti, his consciousness was devotionally inflammable. All that was needed was that he had to come in contact with a spark. So when the consciousness is materially inflammable, all that is needed to awaken that fire of lust is that he just has to come in contact with a small spark. So Shaubari Muni came in contact with a small spark of that mating of the fishes. And Bilomangal Tagore came in contact with that spark in the form of Chintamani's instruction. And then his devotionally inflammable consciousness that was completely awakened, that was set into a blaze. And then he became a great sadhu actually. So therefore, offenses take away the power to control our senses. That also we can see from Shaubari Muni's episode. And we can also see Shaubari Muni and Prachetas, if we make a comparison. Both of them performed austerities under the water. And Prachetas achieved perfection because of blessings of Lord Shiva. Shaubari Muni fell from his position because of the offense committed to Garuda. So therefore, when we perform austerities, it is important that in what mood we perform our austerities. So austerity should not make a person proud, or it should not make a person hard-hearted. It should not lead to disrespect towards others. So that is also we can see in Shaubari Muni's episode. So here Prabhupada writes a profound purport. He quotes Nishkinchanasya Bhagavat Bhajanon Mukasya. And Shaubari Muni is telling that everyone should study my life, should observe my fall down. So a person who is desiring to attain freedom from material bondage, he must not associate with a Vishayi. Or in plain language, it is advised that an exalted saintly person avoids the association of those who are materially inclined. And one must live in the association of devotees. Prabhupada says that ISKCON is started in order to give association of devotees to the common people, so that the people will become disinterested in the material affairs. Although this is an ambitious proposal, this association is proving effective with the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shaubari Muni regrets that he had bad association even in the deepest part of the water. Because of the bad association of the sexually engaged fish, he fell down. A secluded place is also not secure unless there is good association. Vishwanath Chakravarti also mentions this in his purport, that Shaubari is saying that others should not become like me. He should not, one should not engage his external senses with the sense objects. Of course, internal senses cannot be avoided because mind is always active. So he says that one should not engage the external senses of the sense objects. If there is excellent association with the devotees who are fixed in the Lord, tad vrateshu, one should take that association. Because I lacked that association, I associated with fish engaging in sex life, arising from finding fault in Garuda. If there is excellent association, then take it. Otherwise, do not associate. And this is what Kardama Muni mentioned. In fact, Kardama Muni mentioned this in his prayer to the Lord. Lokamsya lokanu gatan pashumsya hitva shitaste charanata patram parasparam pad gunavada sidu piyusha niryapita deha dharma. So by discussing about the topics of the Lord amongst each other, amongst the devotees, one can overcome the 4 bodily necessities of eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. So you can read the next 4 verses translation, 52 to
52. In the beginning, I was alone and engaged in performing the austerities of mystic yoga. But later, because of the association of fish engaged in sex, I desired to marry. Then I became the husband of 50 wives, and in each of them I begot 100 sons. And thus my family increased to 5,000 members. By the influence of the modes of material nature, I became fallen and thought that I would be happy in material life. Thus, there is no end to my material desires for my enjoyment in this life and next.
So we see, I'll just quickly go through the other verses. In this way, Shaubari Muni finally developed a detachment, and then he passed his household affairs for some time, and then he entered the Vanaprastha order along with his wives, because all his wives had no shelter apart from Shaubari Muni. And he performed severe penances in the forest, and he gave up his body, and he attained the Supreme Lord. And by observing their husband, Shaubari Muni's wives followed him, just as the flames of a fire cease when the fire is extinguished. So, Arjuneshwar Prabhu, shall I quickly complete the next chapter? Maybe 15 minutes. What is your suggestion? What other devotees say?
The devotees have questions also.
Tomorrow.
So the devotees have question, and
Yes.
Hare Krishna. I have
Yes,
one
sir.
question, bro.
Ah.
That this we see there is offense Vaishnava Aparadh here. Shaubari Muni committed Vaishnava Aparadh towards Garuda, such a great devotee. Then we hear that unless we beg forgiveness from that Vaishnava, then we cannot achieve perfection. So how by his own self he achieved perfection, Shaubari Muni, without even approaching Garuda like that?
Yeah, it is essentially genuinely developing that mood of sometimes because of certain physical limitations, you may not find that Vaishnava to go and beg forgiveness. Sometimes it may be possible actually. But if a person has developed a genuine spirit of repentance, one that is considered as an atonement. If it is possible, one should definitely go and beg forgiveness from that very Vaishnava where a person has committed an offense. Chaitanya Charitamrita also it is described that Devananda Pandit, when he served Vakreshwar Pandit, he had committed an offense to Srivas Thakur. But he served Vakreshwar Pandit. But Mahaprabhu took note of it and gave his mercy. So, at that point, when it is mentioned that one should beg forgiveness from that Vaishnava, that is mentioned because sometimes a person may have a attitude that, okay, I have committed this mistake towards this Vaishnava, but let me do some extra chanting or extra deity worship, or let me do something else. One may want to avoid that trouble of going to that devotee and begging forgiveness. So therefore it is mentioned. But sometimes practically there is a thing. And also Bhagavatam is just narrating the story. Maybe Shaubari Muni might have begged forgiveness from Garuda. He might have performed some atonement also. Bhagavatam is not exactly pinpointing it. He just mentioning the story. Could be he might have done that also.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Yes, sir.
We just saw the case where the man was giving birth to a child, and in the next chapter, there's a case where I'm just asking a related question, so quoting a next chapter,
Yes.
where Harishchandra had to perform a yajna to please Varuna, where he had to sacrifice his own son. So in a sacrifice, he had to sacrifice his own son. So question is, these kind of all kind of things are given here, described. In other words, it looks like Vedic culture was the origin of more or less everything, which people today follow or not follow. So if people challenge on these kind of things today, how do we counteract and justify even these acts while in the previous ages? But this looks highly heinous to sacrifice one's own son for the pleasure of the Devatas, and Devatas rejoiced when that yajna was completed.
Yeah, these are definitely very sensitive subjects, and people ask. One is when we talk about Vedic sacrifices, whichever person is sacrificed, that person gets a higher form, higher destination. Like we have seen the example, seen the description of many animal sacrifices. The animal would get a human body after getting sacrificed. So, but it's not explicitly mentioned in the next chapter about that Shuna Shepa getting sacrificed. But in general, that principle is definitely there. The Vedic sacrifice, when something is in some animal or Purusha Meda Yajna is also mentioned in the Vedas. But there are particular rules are there, and the person who is sacrificed, he gets a better destination. It's not that it's some abuse on the people. Like it's not some kind of a slavery or something. Like you can just for your own enjoyment, you can dominate somebody and sacrifice that person. No, that person also gets a superior destination. So that also has to be pointed out. And some of the things we don't know the exact because Bhagavatam is just mentioning the storyline, but maybe other scriptures, some of the things may not be available. They may actually explain that particular yajna, who should perform the yajna, what is the adhikar for the yajna, and what are the different criteria. All those things will be explained in detail in other scriptures. When we go to those details, then we can explain with a more convincing arguments. But something which we can explain according to our level is that the person who is sacrificed, whether it's animal or human being, they get a better destination. And we can see sometimes even in this world, for the sake of the country, sometimes a country sends a particular person as a spy. They train that person to the neighboring country, and that person lives in the neighboring country. And then when that person is actually caught, sometimes that person is caught with a neighboring country. And then at that time, the country cannot actually own that person. Oh, this person belongs to our country. So for the sake of the country, that spy is actually will be sacrificed by the country. The Kulbhushan Yadav, there is a case which is going on since some years. We don't know whether he could have been a trained spy or not, but definitely the country is not claiming. Country cannot claim even if it's a true spy. So sometimes the principle is that for the sake of a family, one can sacrifice one member of the family. For the sake of a village, one can sacrifice one family. For the sake of the country, one can sacrifice one village. So we have to see that the purpose, what is the resultant? Is it for a selfish purpose of some few individuals, or is it for a selfless purpose of a larger society? I'm sure usually when the Vedic sacrifices talk about these things, it will be usually for a selfless purpose or a larger society. So that also has to be pointed out, and these are the points which come to my mind.
Thank you, Roji. This particular example of a spy makes it, quite relatable and makes it a little bit more clear that way. Thank you, Roji.
Additionally, just a comment, not a question, is that human life is meant for sacrifice also, right? It's not meant for enjoyment.
Yeah, that is there. But here the question is about this Purusha Meda Yajna. Human life is meant for sacrifice from an individual point of view, but here the human life is meant for sacrifice, so can I just sacrifice somebody who I'm seeing? So human life is meant for a sacrifice, so therefore I want to sacrifice in the yajna. Can I just catch hold of anybody?
No. Meaning of sacrifice, as you said, is not for exploitation.
Prabhuji, like in the initial section, we're discussing about this apad dharma and all, like we're discussing. So whenever in Bhagavatam, this thing comes that he had no progeny or he had no sons. Many times the word no sons is used. So is it that exactly no son, or is it progeny in the terms of child? Like daughter may be there, but son is the. So what is exactly in this regards?
See, both son and daughter are equally glorious. It is said that when a father gives a kanya dana, he gets the pious credits for going to heaven. And when the father gets a son, that son helps the father in going to the Pitraloka by performing Shraddha. So both the son and daughter are glorious. But especially the scriptures, we see the personalities of the kings. So when the kings, as a king, they have to continue their legacy. So therefore, it becomes very important to get a son who will continue the legacy, and of course, will perform the Shraddha, by which they can go to Pitraloka. So otherwise, because the daughter is married, daughter goes to the somebody else's house. So in Tamil language, a daughter-in-law is called as Natruppen. So Natru means like you plant, suppose when you are growing the rice grains. So you initiate. So when you are growing the rice, initially you grow the rice in a particular field, and then you actually remove that rice crops, and then you actually plant in the another place where the rice crops are grown. If you have seen the agriculture, first you grow in a particular place, and then when it grows to a small height, and then you remove that, and then you put it in the actual place. So similarly, a woman is like that. A woman initially, she grows up in a particular house, but she will bring prosperity to some other house where she enters. And because the father actually gives a charity, performs the charity of Kanyadana, therefore he becomes glorious. So both are equally, whether to get a son or a daughter, both are equally glorious. But son is mentioned because many of the kings, they have to continue the legacy. Sometimes if the king does not have the son, if he has only daughter, and he will give the daughter in marriage to somebody, and he will put a condition that if my daughter gives birth to a son, you must hand over my son, you must hand over that grandson to me, who will actually become the next king after me. Like that condition is put. But one of the important points, the main purpose is to create a legacy.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir.
Prabhuji, earlier you mentioned that nowadays saffron is awarded earlier. So because nowadays it is not awarding, it is accepting. It is a individual's choice. So as a practicing person, what things we can take care, which denotes appropriate time of accepting saffron in general?
I just mentioned that point because that it takes, because all of us, maybe most of us, we all got saffron early, maybe 5 years or 6 years or something like that. But when we were discussing with the different devotees, and also by seeing the last few years, different things, at least it strongly dawned upon me and also some other devotees that after 12 years, saffron can be given. That's from the awarding point of view. The person becomes a little mature to actually make a decision. He also become mature to accept the respect of others. So from that point of view, I mentioned that late saffron and early marriage. Because saffron means a matured state of a person. Saffron Although we may say we are not sannyasis, but generally people see, when some people see somebody in saffron, they see as a sannyasis. The sannyasi develops that shows the spirit of detachment, and the detachment is something, is a matured state of a person's realization or a consciousness. And many times we are externally having saffron, but we don't have that maturity of consciousness. We don't have the matured realization of detachment. We have our own struggles. So it is like, suppose a fruit, say a mango, externally looks ripened, but when you actually bite inside, you see that, oh, this is not ripe only. But externally it looks very ripe and attractive. But internally, when you cut it or when you try to bite it, you realize that, oh, it is bitter, it is not yet ripe. Because one of the process of ripening, one of the crucial factor for the process of ripening is the time factor. Although a person might have put the proper seed, watered the seed, everything, but one of the crucial factor is that the time factor. So that is why, because when we were having that meeting, I mentioned this 12 years, the time factor becomes crucial. Apart from that, like if we talk about accepting saffron, another point which I can share is that, say, the third canto of the Bhagavatam, Brahmaji created 4 types of brahmacharya ashram. 4 types of brahmachari, 4 types of grahastha, 4 types of vanaprastha, and 4 types of sannyasi. Kutichaka, Bahudaka, Parivrajaka, Paramahamsa. Brahmachari also, the 4 levels are the 4 types. So the first type of brahmachari is that one who observes the brahmacharya vrata for 3 days. You have to see the exact purport. For 3 days after the Upanayana samskara. And second type of brahmachari is that one who observes the brahmacharya vrata for 1 year after the Upanayana samskara. And then the third type of brahmachari is that one who observes the brahmacharya vrata till he completes the study of the Vedas in the ashram of the Guru. And fourth is somebody who decides to observe the brahmacharya vrata for lifelong. And each names are given: Savitra, Prajapatya, and Brahma, like that, the names are given. So, like in general, if we say this saffron can be equated, generally the notion is that a person, saffron is awarded or saffron is accepted by somebody when a person has made up his mind to live in the particular, say, brahmacharya ashram for lifelong. That's the general theoretical understanding. Of course, a person can choose to change it later, but this is a general theoretical understanding when a person decides to stay in that ashram for lifelong. So that means what? That means he should have at least gone beyond, he should have at least gone through the 3rd stage. Brahmacharya ashram means 4 levels of ashram are there. So at least one should have gone beyond the 3rd stage. That means one should have completed the study of the Vedas. So when we talk about the study of the Vedas in the ISKCON setup, that means one should have at least studied, say, we can say from Prabhupada's point of view, 4 essential books thoroughly: Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Nectar of Devotion. This is just one thought. And of course, not simply study of the books, but one should have practically rendered service to the Guru in the ashram. The study plus the service. If you complete the study properly and the properly rendered service, then one may accept saffron. It's just a thought based on that verse. So in general, say in ISKCON, these are the 4 levels of the brahmacharya ashram created by Brahma. Just like in the 12th chapter of the Gita, Krishna talks about different levels of bhakti. Fix your mind on me. If you cannot do that, fix your intelligence on me. If you cannot do that, perform sadhana bhakti, like that. Like suppose, just imagine if Krishna were to give only the first option, fix your mind on me, and he doesn't say anything beyond that, how many people would be qualified to perform bhakti? It is so difficult actually, because fixing the mind on Krishna, it is equated with the bhava bhakti actually. If that is the only option given, and most people would not be able to take up bhakti. And Krishna gives various options. If you cannot do that, do this. If you cannot do that, this thing. So when we talk about brahmacharya ashram, we can say that lifelong brahmacharya vrata, that can be equated with what Krishna says, fixing the mind on Krishna. And suppose if we give only this option to the people, so what we have is that only the lifelong brahmacharya ashram. Then like that most people will not be able to, most people will not fit into that category. But in ISKCON, for many years, we only had that option. Like we just make a full-time devotees. That's how ISKCON, like many decades since the starting of ISKCON. But actually, we should put our effort to actually create the first 3 levels of ashrama, and the 4th level, somebody choosing to live for lifelong, that is something which the individual decides on his own. And we have to put our effort to create the first 3 levels. That means first 3 levels, it means we can translate into our level. In our scenario, maybe somebody who undergoes brahmacharya training, it could be say for 2 months in a summer season during their vacation, or somebody undergoes training for say 1 year while working and staying in the temple, undergoes certain training. That can be one level. Or another level can be, okay, a person takes a complete break and stays in the ashram, like a sabbatical thing they have in the Western countries. They have a certain system that they complete break and study. They take a complete break and study for 2-3 years in service. So for these 3 levels, we can actually we can work on creating these 3 levels of ashram. And 4th is somebody who wants to stay lifelong. That is an option which the people choose on their own. So I would say that accepting saffron, it can be because it is equated with somebody who wants to stay lifelong. That means he should have gone beyond the 3rd level. And 3rd level, according to the Shastra, means one who has completed the study of the Vedas. So it can mean that one who has properly studied these Prabhupada's books. And not simply study, because study is always combined with practical service, because that's also brahmacharya. This is just a thought.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. It was very helpful and informative. I have a question, but I don't think I can ask now. Time is up.
Okay, yeah. Later we can call.
Yes.
So
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So,
yes,
on behalf of every devotee assembled here, I would like to offer a sincere gratitude and thanks to you for taking out your valuable time for the last 2 weeks. And it has always been a wonderful hearing from you, as we had heard you in the Bhakti Vaibhav also. Is it going on? Okay. Your pearls of wisdom in the form of examples, brilliant anecdotes, and today's discussion, or the discussion on the Canto 9, as as I had asked a question, there are a lot of stories which arises controversies, and you offer a very sober, simple, straightforward answer that pacifies our mind, and pretty sure would satisfy the mind of people outside also, who generally look for faults in Vedic scriptures. And of course, a lot of devotional insights that you bring in through different stories and different pastimes that we have discussed. So sincere gratitude to you for taking your time. And it's a request from all of us here that we look forward to have your association again. We still have a lot of chapters to discuss, cantos to cover. It'll be a great fortune if you're able to join us again. With that, let us all chant together once Hare Krishna Mahamantra for thanking Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And finally, forgive us for any inconvenience caused at our end to you. Once again, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
So thank you very much to all the devotees. So these chapters in the presentation, in the course of either the course of presenting or in the course of addressing any topics, if we had made any mistakes or if we had spoken anything inappropriate, so I beg apologies. I'm definitely not the qualified person to present, or I don't have the ability to present properly, but still I'm grateful that you have accepted my small service with its shortcomings. So thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So we will decide with our BBRB team that how many chapters to keep for the test this time, 6 or 7. So 6 chapters have been completed, and we will just let you all know about it. Tomorrow will be the test. We will decide the time and send the message. Let us see. Hare Krishna. So we'll end here. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.